What's going on, everybody? This is a Short Sports Show. I'm your host, Daniel Short. Today's episode, we got a good one. We're going to recap the college football week and also to look at the NFC East and the NFC West divisions. But before we get into all that, make sure you follow me on Twitter at short_sports 24/7, and also find me on Facebook, the Short Sports Show. And if you miss any episodes from either today or last week, don't worry about it. I got you covered. Go on YouTube, look up the Short Sports Show, and you'll find me there, and you can recap all the other episodes. But like I said, we're going to look at what happened this week with the college football. A lot of upsets, and you have the FCS opponents beating up, K-State getting upset, and number 25 Oregon State losing to Eastern Washington, and shows you maybe shouldn't play some of those schools. But go ahead and recap the top 25 with Alabama defeating Virginia Tech 35-10. Ohio State got away in a close one against Buffalo 40-20. Oregon dominating Nicholas State 66-3. Georgia losing to Clemson. I had Clemson in that game. Final score was Clemson 38, Georgia 35. South Carolina escaping a win against North Carolina 27-10. And A&M, with the return of Johnny Manziel in the second half, lifted what at first in the first two quarters looked like Rice was right there with them, but A&M second half with Johnny Manziel exploded out 52-31, A&M winning. Louisville, unbelievable performance of Teddy Bridgewater, 5 touchdowns, ties his career high, 49-7 against Ohio. You got Florida defeating Toledo 24-6, and that's, like I said last week, not liking Florida. They struggled against Toledo, which Toledo's a good team. Don't get me wrong. Toledo's a good team, but Florida's obviously shown they are not a top 10 team in college football. Then number 12 LSU defeating my TCU Horned Frogs 37-27. It was a hard game, but it showed that LSU was just outmanned, and just there's too much talent for LSU than there was on TCU. TCU making some early mistakes, and LSU just capitalized on it. Then 13, Oklahoma State having no problem with Mississippi State, 21-3. Notre Dame defeating Temple 28-6. Texas dominating New Mexico State 56-7. Oklahoma 34-0 against Louisiana Monroe. And Michigan 59, Central Michigan 9. Nebraska, this is not what I expected. I didn't think Nebraska would struggle so much with Wyoming. The final score was 37-34. Wyoming could have put out a win at Nebraska. Boise State just got crushed against UW. I knew UW had a chance against that game, but I didn't expect it to be a blowout. 38-6, Washington beating Boise State. UCLA 58, Nevada 20. Northwestern 44, Cal 30. I had Cal in that game with Sonny Dykes coming in as coach. I really thought Cal would have a more explosive offense against Nebraska, and that did not happen. Wisconsin 45, UMass 0. And Oregon State upset possibly of the year so far. Obviously, it's just week 1, but Eastern Washington defeated number 25 Oregon State 49-46. Tonight we finished off college football, at least on the ranked side, with Florida State, number 11 Florida State at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's first game as an ACC opponent, as an ACC member, I should say. It's going to be at 5 o'clock Pacific time on ESPN. And then we come to NFL. Finally, months of waiting and watching. It's back. NFL on Thursday night with the Baltimore Ravens, defending Super Bowl champions, against the Denver Broncos, who they beat in a miracle game at last in the AFC Championship game at 5:30 Pacific time on NBC. So make sure you watch into that. But like I said, in this episode, we're going to discuss the NFC East and NFC West divisions. These two really stand out in my mind as the tougher divisions on the NFC side, with NFC West obviously having San Fran and Seattle, and up and coming St. Louis, who I really like, and we'll get into that. Arizona trying to figure out where they're really at. They have potential, and then they just kind of just plop at the end. And then the NFC East, obviously historically the greatest division in the NFL. The New York Giants, Philadelphia Eagles, Dallas Cowboys, and the defending NFC East champions, the Washington Redskins. And main thing, there's two questions that came into my mind when thinking about the NFC East. Over the offseason, Tony Romo, the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, got a 6-year, $108 million contract extension. And that's up for discussion of, does he deserve it? With only winning one playoff game, should you pay someone that much money? We'll get into that when we discuss the Dallas Cowboys. And also, how will Chip Kelly do bringing in that run speed option into the NFL? How will it succeed? And does he have the players to perform that? So those are things that step into my mind. And strength of schedule wise, the Cowboys have the weakest schedule with comparing it to the other NFC East teams. And Washington has the strongest strength of schedule with basically non-divisions. What's really strong, they have going against a .534 team. Basically, everybody that the majority of who they're playing had a above 500 record from last year. Dallas Cowboys, again, like I said, Tony Romo, 6-year, $108 million extension. And the discussion of him, whether he deserves it, if you look at his stats, he does. I mean, he threw for 4,000 yards. The total offense in passing was third in the league. You know, that's obviously very, very good. But, you know, everybody blames him for the losses with the Cowboys. And as quarterback, you're the leader. So, yes, you are going to get blamed for the losses, and you will get credit for the wins. That's just how it's going to go as the quarterback. And, yes, he has made many, many mistakes. Obviously, in the playoffs, which everybody remembers when the Dallas Cowboys were at the Seattle Seahawks and fumbling the snap, leading up to later on having the number one spot in the NFC in 2007, losing to the New York Giants at home. And then later just throwing interceptions last year, in the last game against the Washington Redskins, which obviously led to them losing the division and losing a chance in the playoffs. Quarterback-wise, they have a solid backup in Kyle Orton. But Tony Romo, with the extension, does he deserve it? I don't believe that he deserves it. I believe you keep him there for next few years and see how he can do. But I don't believe he deserves that much money. And again, this is an extension to a contract he already had, which I believe only had a year or two left on it. I know he's a quarterback for the team. I think there's more options coming up where the Cowboys could have done better looking forward. Plus him getting older. I just think that's going to hit your cap, which they already have a tight cap space already. Why are you going to add on to that? So I don't think that was the smartest decision that they've made. But we'll just have to see going out the year. Coaching wise, obviously having a new defensive coordinator in Monty Kiffin coming from USC, who struggled at USC. Most people, that was obviously, yes, that was in college, but in the NFL, he succeeded with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, being, obviously creating the Tampa 2 defense, which, everybody remembers in 2002 when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, that's what led them to the Super Bowl and ultimately winning. And him being there calling the defense, it is an upgrade to Rob Ryan, who struggled throughout the year calling defensive plays. I believe, yes, that is a good decision that they made. How will it does he still have it in him where he can coach the right defense and execute? We'll have to see throughout the year. And obviously, Jason Garrett having to give up play calling duties to Bill Callahan. I like that idea. I think Bill Callahan will be able to improve this offense. It's the second year on the team, and I think the Cowboys offense should pick it up because the running game was the worst in Cowboys history statistically that they've ever had. I mean, you can look back through all the history of the Dallas Cowboys of their running backs, obviously starting with Emmitt Smith and Tony Dorsett being the main guys. DeMarco Murray, I love him. He's a great running back. I think he's not the next. I'm not going to say the next Emmitt, but he is their running back for the future. I believe he's going to be there, the next 8 to 9 years, and being their feature back, always getting 1,000 yards, sort of like what LT did with the San Diego Chargers. But he did have some injuries throughout the year, but I believe he's going to be. I think that was just getting used to the NFL. Last year was his rookie year. I don't think injury will be an issue going through this season. He had only 663 yards on offense. Again, that was with injury. So I see him rushing over 1,200 yards this year. The rushing attack is going to be greatly improved, and I think Bill Callahan will do an excellent job coaching this offense, where the running game will be a lot more supportive for Tony Romo, which obviously with an established running game is going to help the passing game to step up. And if your passing game was already third in the league, which they were forced to pass more than they were on their offense because of lack of depth on the running back side, their offense is probably going to be one of the best in the NFL this year. Receiving side obviously starts out with Dez Bryant. Dez Bryant, great receiver. Second best in the NFL, I do believe, next to Calvin Johnson. He's explosive off the line. He's always find a way to get to the ball, and he can make any catch. And I love him. That's why they gave him 88 for the players that wore 88 for the Dallas Cowboys at receiver position have always been successful. He will be successful. And the wide receiver group, having drafted Terrence Williams, is a name to remember. Terrence Williams, rookie out of Baylor. And I saw him throughout his college year because, again, TCU fan. TCU Baylor played the last several years. So I've been able to see what he's been able to do. And just watching him, he's great to watch. He's going to help out the Cowboys offense, taking over the third string, which will give not less pressure, but will help Tony Romo find another target other than looking, for Dez Bryant, Miles Austin, and having Jason Witten. Now this gives him another target to look for in that offense, and I think he'll get above 500 yards this year, and possibly starting for next offseason, we're going to be talking about can he take the next step and taking over the second spot over Miles Austin. Kevin Ogletree, they'll lose Kevin Ogletree, which obviously in the opening game last year against the New York Giants, who they start off with this year, had 2 touchdowns in an impressive game, and obviously he lost his brother, so that was very emotional for him. Losing him, I want to say it's gonna hurt. It would hurt them, but it really won't because he had 2 touchdown catches in that game, and the reason I say that is throughout the rest of the year, he only had 2 more touchdown catches. That's not very impressive. I'm a big stats guy, and that's why I'm bringing up a lot of stats, and that's not helping the offense. A key addition for the team is Travick Frederick, a center who should take over and obviously improve the offensive line, which is a huge, huge problem for the Dallas Cowboys. That's why I believe Romo takes too much hate for that. People forget that, as a quarterback, if Tony Romo had the offensive line that Peyton Manning does or Tom Brady, we might be looking at Tony Romo from a different perspective, and that, stats go up a lot more, which, I mean, they're already high enough as it is. So, I mean, how much higher can they get? It'd probably be another Drew Brees, I'm guessing. But the wins and losses are dramatically affected if he had an efficient offensive line, in my opinion. Defensively, they're still stacked. Obviously, they're moving with the new defense with Monty Kiffin from a 3-4 to a 4-3. Also, basically the Tampa Chew defense being in that. They lose Gerald Sensabaugh, who I liked as a safety, and I'm a little sad that they lost him because secondary has been rough for the Dallas Cowboys over the past few years, and not having him, who's been a leader and a veteran guy on that defense, is going to hurt them. They also lose Mike Jenkins, cornerback, running back Felix Jones, who I'm glad they moved away for him. Not really needed. Running back wise, they have Lance Dunbar, Joseph Randall, who I really like out of Oklahoma State, and Philip Tanner, who might get cut. Kevin Ogletree, again, like I said, is gone, and Marcus Spears is also gone off the defense, which I believe is going to hurt their depth wise. And he did have a significant factor off that defense, and him not being there might hurt them. They returned 10 starters on offense and defense, and basically statistic-wise, they were 19th in total defense. That's going to have to improve, especially with RG3 maybe growing, may have a sophomore slump. With the new offense that we really don't know how Philadelphia is going to run, if they would be successful at it. And with the New York Giants, obviously with Eli Manning being a difficult test to them. But they open up the season again on Sunday night against the New York Giants, which is going to be a great game. Who I have out there as winning, I think the Cowboys have enough to win. Giants, they'll have a good offense, and we'll get into the Giants. They're coming up next. And I just think Cowboys will be the more not dominating team. It's going to be a close game. I think it's just going to lead down to a last-minute drive, and I believe the Cowboys will have enough in them to do it, whether they stop them or for the last-minute drive for New York, or they come up with the big drive. New York Giants, our next team, I have them in third, and I meant to say the Cowboys, I have them in second in the division. New York Giants coming in third. I think they're taking a step down defensively. I don't think they're going to be up to par with the offenses in the NFL this year. Coming off, they're going to have a new offensive assistant and a defensive assistant coach. Quarterback-wise, obviously having Eli Manning, that's your quarterback for the next 4 to 5 years. Eli Manning, I don't really like him that much, but he proves in week in and week out that he's one of the top quarterbacks in the league. And one guy to look out for is the backup quarterback, Ryan Nassib, out of Syracuse, rookie. They're going to groom him to become hopefully what they think will be the quarterback for the future for the New York Giants. I like him. I saw him at Syracuse, and he's going to be a solid quarterback. I still think he's got 3 more years till he can actually start a game and really manage it correctly. But is someone to look out for if you are a Giants fan. Running backs, they took a huge hit in the offseason, or in the preseason, I should say, losing Andre Brown with a broken leg. It's really going to hurt them. But luckily, they do have David Wilson, who was going to take over from losing Ahmad Bradshaw. But Andre Brown was going to be that power back, that goal line back for New York, and not having them it's going to hurt them dramatically, in my opinion. Receivers-wise, I like their receiving core. I think they have one of the best receiving cores in the NFL. It's underrated. Obviously, everybody knows Victor Cruz. And having Hakeem Nicks, who is on the hot seat, really, if you think about it. He hasn't really performed like he should, but I believe he will step up. And also the other receiver who I like is Victor Cruz. I should just talk about them real quick. Victor Cruz, I like him. Luckily today he did go to practice, and hopefully Giants can figure out some kind of way to add on to his contract so he can perform effectively and really carry that Giants offense, because without him I think they really suffer. Really suffer in the passing lane. Luckily, like I said, they do have David Wilson to help them running, but passing-wise, when it's that third and long and not having that go-to guy is really going to hurt them if he can't get the act together. Ruben Randle is the guy that I believe is going to have the guy that's going to step up for the New York Giants. He's a big, tall, wide receiver, very physical at the line, and whether Victor Cruz, how he performs, is going to impact Ruben Randle and the playing time. Not saying Ruben Randle is going to take the first string, but I believe Ruben Randle is going to have a much more play into the offense this year. They're returning 8 on offense, 8 on defense, and losing a lot of key guys in Martellus Bennett, Ahmad Bradshaw, Dominique Hickson, who I like, Chris Canty at defensive tackle, Kenny Phillips, Lawrence Tynes at kicker, but so much for that. O.C. Umanura, losing him defensively is going to hurt them. I really do think. But they do bring in some key guys, in Dan Connor at linebacker, who former Cowboy, Colin Jenkins at defensive tackle, who I believe will help plug in a need for pass rushing and run stopping, which is going to help the defense for the Giants. And Brandon Myers, tight end from Oakland, who is going to take over, obviously, for Martellus Bennett. And Aaron Ross, who used to be with the Giants, then went to Jacksonville, is now back. That'll help him. Obviously, the weakness for the defense was the secondary. They just got burned almost every single play. And you can always see whether the quarterback for the opposing team got to that receiver or not. You would always see someone broken coverage or someone was not in the right spot for the New York Giants at defense. So that will have to be a big thing. But Prince Amukamara, hope I said that right. I like him out of Nebraska. Sadly, his rookie year, he didn't get to play too much because he broke his leg, or actually didn't play at all. But now he's getting more playing time, and I like him. He's going to be their cornerback. By the end of this year, he will be their number one cornerback. Obviously, getting Dan Connor will help the linebacking position. And again, they open at Dallas Sunday night. And like I said, was talking about the Cowboys. I see the Cowboys winning this game by a field goal at most. And it's going to be an interesting game, seeing how the offenses go against both teams will have new defenses and how they're going to work. So that is going to be an interesting matchup. The next team on the NFC East who I have finishing in fourth, the last spot, is the Philadelphia Eagles. Reason why, I'm a huge fan of Chip Kelly in college, because I believe that offense, the read option offense, works in college. Obviously, that's where he had as much success that you could almost have when he was at Oregon. But if you look at the quarterback, and they obviously have a quarterback situation with Nick Foles and Michael Vick, two quarterbacks that one can run the read option, which that's what Chip Kelly was brought in for, and one cannot. Nick Foles is your typical pocket passer, while Michael Vick is obviously the scrambling quarterback. Michael Vick, and over the offseason, he raced LaShawn McCoy and won in a 40-yard dash and whatnot. So, yes, he does have speed, but he hasn't played. One stat that stands out in my mind, he has not played a full 16-game season in his entire career. He's always been injured, basically. And so with running that speed option, how it's going to work, I ultimately think it's going to fail. I think they're going to have, for sure, a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. Not because of trade, not because of anything like that. It's because the record. if not having the first pick in the NFL draft, they're not going to be a good team. Defensively, they're not up to par to stand with the NFL defense. They're just weak. And offensively, the offense is just going to crumble. I see Chip Kelly being there for maybe 2, max 3 years, and it's just not going to work out. Receiving core, they have Deshaun Jackson, who will help out. LaShawn McCoy, running back. Losing Jeremy Maclin was huge. Losing him it's going to take away a whole lot from their game. And there's only so much Deshaun Jackson and LaShawn McCoy can do for that offense. Do I see LaShawn McCoy still rushing for over 1,200 yards? Absolutely. Deshaun Jackson having more than 900 yards receiving? Absolutely. But they are not going to be able to effectively run the read option in the NFL. Will they have some success and have some big breakout plays? Absolutely. Yes, they will. But is it going to be enough where they're going to be able to beat solid teams? No. And they're having basically a brand new coaching staff, and that happens when you get a new head coach. But it's just not going to be enough. They're going to be the flop team of the year, basically. And I feel bad for Michael Vick. I'm a huge fan of Michael Vick. And it's sad to see that his career is slowly being tarnished. And it's not going to be the same. And I don't see them doing any good. They bring in some defensive guys who I like that'll help maybe keep them in some close ball games, but not enough to just win. They bring in Connor Barwin from Houston, who had 11 and a half sacks in Houston. He's going to help out a lot for the pass rushing defense. Patrick Chung, safety from New England, is going to help out. James Casey as a tight end. Kenny Phillips at safety, who both of those safeties, Patrick Chung and Kenny Phillips, obviously take over and do a solid job. Kerry Williams at cornerback from Baltimore. And defensively, yes, it's going to be much improved because they were 15th in defense, which is right almost in the pack, almost in the middle of the pack, one above. But it's just not going to be enough. I'm sorry for all the Philadelphia Eagles fans. It's just not your year this year, and it won't be for the next few years. Do I think Nick Foles takes over at starter? Because they're not going to have to run. By week 9, they will not run. No, let me change that. Week 11, they will not run the read option anymore. They're going to have to change the system, which is going to hurt Chip Kelly. He's going to have to find some other way around it. They return 10 on offense, 8 on defense. Again, I don't see it being enough to actually win a lot of ball games. I see them winning at most 4 games of the year, and that's just being giving. I really think they'll probably win 2 or 3 at most. They open up at Washington Redskins on Monday night, which we'll really get to see. And I think Washington is going to exploit their defense and take over, and not have the Eagles won't have a lot of success on offense against a real good Redskins defense. And obviously, the next team is the Washington Redskins. Redskins, I believe, number 1 in the division, again, and much better record than they will have. RG3, I believe, is going to be just healthy. It's going to be not 100% because you're not going to be 100%, but I shouldn't say that because what Adrian Peterson did, but it's going to be enough to start week 1 to week 17. Kirk Cousins, solid backup, and I can't believe it. It's already been almost 30 minutes. We're going to try to get through this as quick as possible. Couldn't get to the NFC West. Going to try to get through to the Washington Redskins real quick. Alfred Morris being the running back of the future. Pierre Garçon, Josh Morgan, and Fred Davis lead the receiving group. Key losses are Lorenzo Alexander, linebacker, played all 16 games, did not start, but was a solid contributor to that team. They returned 11 all players on offense, 10 on defense. Number 1 rushing team in the league. Again, they open up with Philadelphia Monday night. believe a victory. Sorry we couldn't get to everybody, but again, follow me on Twitter. Hope you enjoyed. Missed this episode, go to YouTube. Thank you for listening.